Alright, so I just wanted to do a quick demonstration because I've noticed that there's been an update to Firewill's targeting system in relation to the aircraft and the GPS guided munitions. It seems that it's gotten a lot more usable, a lot more kind of functional in terms of actually having the utility of designating and engaging multiple targets at once. As well as finally being able to actually control the aircraft with flight controls while the menu is up. So we're going to try this out. I've got a couple targets set up. They're way down at the St. George airstrip. It's 6 just off-roads. On board the aircraft are 6 GBU-38 JDAMs, just standard 500-pound GPS-guided bombs, and there is 1 2,000-pound, I believe it's GBU-31, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, 31. So the changes. So there's a lot more functionality in terms of the ITGT, the basically designation system that we would be using. I'm also going to just change my heads-up display color there because that is really hard to see in the clouds. So let's go ahead and bring the alpha up. Make it a little bit more green. HCS, bring red down, bring blue down. There we go. Alright, now we can actually see it. So, what's changed, first of all, if I open up the menu, we have the ITGT. You see the buttons have changed a little bit, there's some new kind of options. And there's a lot more functionality. Now, one of the first things that you'll notice is I can still control the aircraft. Throttle, pitch, roll, yaw, I can control everything, even though that menu is open. So we can now properly continue flying the aircraft without the throttle going to 0 and it just kind of putting us towards the ground, which is fantastic. The other thing that we can do, along with what I'm going to demonstrate on actually how to use it and designate targets, is the POI, the point of interest marker. So if I come out of that and I go to my targeting pod, we swing over by the airfield where I've got my targets. I can now designate a target by getting the targeting pod, slewing it towards whatever target that I wish to designate. And as long as the targeting pod has an eye on the target, I can then go to the ITGT and designate a GPS guided marker or a designation via what the targeting pod is looking at. So what the POI allows us to do is it allows us to just designate something with the targeting pod by getting a visual on it and locking the target. And then we can open up the ITGT and actually designate that and send that through to the guidance system for the GPS guided munition and basically paint the target via the pod rather than having to mess around with map markers or 10-digit grids or anything. We can simply just look at what we want to strike, send it to the POI, it'll make a target, and then we designate that target. So as an example, we've got one of our off-roads here. Normally, I would have to figure out what the exact position is in 10-digit grid and kind of get it within, about 5 meters. What I can now do is I can open up the ITGT, click on POI, and there it is. The precise location of the target has now been marked via the targeting pod. So, what we do now, as the actual fire control system has changed, we no longer, you don't say, Wizzo, we no longer have to select the target, send that individual target to the FCS, and then drop and then select a different target and so on and so forth. There's actually now a list. We can pre-designate a specific weapon on a specific pylon for one target. So what I'm going to do is, now we have our first car marked, I'm now going to designate a couple of the other ones. Open up ITGT, click on POI, got another target. If I go to that one, ITGT, POI, and so on and so forth. I'm going to do this 6 times for 6 targets. And then I'm going to show you how we actually figure out the fire control system with this new update. Which, by the way, was completely unbeknownst to me. I did not actually realize the Firewill had changed this until I was fiddling around with it while writing the documents. So we now have 3 of our targets. So we're going to go ahead and go back to our targeting pod, reduce our speed a little bit here. And we're going to continue marking our targets. Hit poi, another target created. Another target, TGT, poi, set. And our last target, I believe, is that all 6? No, this last one here has not been marked. So, ITGT, poi. Alright, so it goes from 0 rather than from 1 all the way through. So you have target 0, target 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is 6 targets in total. Now, the fun part about this, and this has gotten stupidly more powerful and useful. Rather than what we had to do previously to engage multiple targets, where we would select the designator on target 1, send that to the fire control system, drop the bomb, reopen it, go to target designation 2, send that to the FCS, so on and so forth. We can now do all of that and drop all of our munitions in one pass before we even make our run-in. So, the way we do this, and this is awesome, we open up the ITGT, make sure that we're on a level heading. We then go to list, and here we can see our list of ordnance. So we have pylon 5, 6, 7, 11, 12, 13, and 19, and it designates which munition is on them. So in this case, we have our GBU-38s, 1 through 6, and then our GBU-31 2,000-pound bomb at the bottom. We can then select our munition and our target number, and then we select that target info to go to that pylon. So this is Station 5, GBU-38, target 0, or in this case the first target, send. We then go through the list. Send 3, send 4, send 5, send 6, send. All of that target info has now been sent to that specific pylon, and we can now strike all 6 of those targets in one pass. That's what we're going to do. So that's all now set up. Now, an important thing to note, you do need to do one thing a little bit differently before you drop your munition. As you can see through the top right, we now have our list. There's our 6 GBU-38 JDAMs, but now there is a secondary mode. So on the heads-up display, you can see there is direct and ITGT. Direct will be just, I believe it's a dumbfire, I'm still working it out. ITGT will follow the target designation given by the ITGT, so make sure that if you're guiding it using GPS guidance, make sure that you're on ITGT. So with that said, we're now going to strike 6 targets in one pass, as all of our GPS guided bombs have an individual target selected per pylon. Let's check this out. So we'll fly towards our target area. Now bear in mind, in this case, we're using an F-15 Strike Eagle, so the Wizzo could be doing this the entire time whilst the pilot is maintaining orbit. So imagine how you can then disperse that workload, designate your targets while, keeping in the orbit and everything, and the pilot is, doing his communications, whatever it may be. Like, you can really just predispose devastation on a target area without even having to do very much. So we now have our targets. So our ingress for this one, since it's along the runway, we're going to come in along the runway, so it looks like it's going to be north to south. So ingress north, egress south, and here we go. So we're now on ITGT mode. Our GBU-38s are selected. And now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Target acquired, target acquired, target acquired. Check this out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All targets destroyed in one pass. And those are not close. Those are spaced out. There's even one outlier that's way at the end of the runway. Look at that. Perfectly on target. One pass. We're gonna have fun with this, and this is gonna be fucking useful. So, we'll go through more of that when we get to the training. I just wanted to demonstrate what we have at our disposal now, and fuck me, it's dangerous. So, we're gonna have a lot of fun.